I hope you all had a fantastic trading week, and with that being said, let's get right into this week's Forex forecast. Starting the weekly Forex forecast off with the US dollar DXY index. So we can clearly see we had a very aggressive down day on Friday here in the US dollar. We are pushing near a daily demand zone at 103.08, and it's a good demand zone from back here. It was almost tested before, but it's a nice drop-based rally. Do I think we will react off the zone and go all the way up to here? Probably not. I do think it is possible we do react off of this zone. However, it is against the trend. Right now we do have a daily downtrend. So in theory, I would expect it to fall. Just like I said, when we broke this low here in this demand zone, that's what created the downtrend. I was expecting the dollar to fall, but I said it's possible we do retrace to this daily supply and then react. You can see we came so close to contacting that daily supply before we ended up falling off. So I do personally think this zone will be removed, but look, it wouldn't surprise me if we do react off of it, maybe push up to supply and then react. I just don't think this is going to be where the dollar really starts to turn around. I actually think, based on my macro time frame analysis, that price will be continuing to fall. The big question looking at the weekly chart here was, were we going to break this high in the weekly chart? And I mean, based on the last couple of days, we definitely have some weekly downward momentum right now. So I actually think we are headed back to the hundreds again, at least 101.11, down to this weekly demand zone that we've pretty much had on our chart from all the way back here, and it's reacted once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. You know, I'm expecting to see maybe another reaction off of it, but eventually probably break based on the fact that it was almost removed back here. So my long-term target on the DXY, you can see down here, is actually 98. Do I think we're going to get there in the next couple weeks? Absolutely not. I just think we will probably be breaking below this low, creating a weekly downtrend, and probably breaking through this weekly demand zone down here as we see the dollar continue to sell off. And like I said, based on my 12-month, 6-month, 3-month time frame analysis, I do expect, you know, price to continue to fall on the dollar. And on the 4-hour time frame, we do have a downward trend as well. Very aggressive move down. That actually created supply at 104.10. So I think it is possible. Maybe we do see some sort of dead cat bounce, push up to supply, and then continue to drop. So just because I think we are going down the dollar doesn't mean we won't see moves to the upside, right? To pull back into supply zones and react back down to the downside. So overall, I am bearish the dollar. We just have to be a little bit patient here and expect some pullbacks, especially after such an aggressive move down. Usually that is followed by a retracement. It's not always guaranteed though. And then the next thing, like I said, I want to see this demand zone on the daily chart removed as well, which would really indicate a lot of weakness and us potentially pushing back down to weekly demand on the DXY. On to the forecast for the Euro US dollar. You can see we clearly broke this daily demand zone. I was pointing this demand zone out last week. Unfortunately, it looked like it was some sort of fake out and just a massive move away here. On the euro, we do have a daily trend to the upside. I would really love to see this higher move because then we'd have a beautiful trend line here, which would be fantastic. So, you know, I am definitely bullish on the euro, that's for sure. If you want to get in long on the euro, we have basically 2 options at this point. If you look on this daily chart, we do have a daily uptrend. We do not have a 4-hour or a 1-hour trend to the upside, so I don't really like the idea of just hopping in long, you know, on day trading timeframes. But based on this 4-hour chart, we really have 2 ideas here for potential long trades if you want to get in long. If you want to short, I'm really not seeing anything at all right now. In theory, we have a supply zone here. If we start to push down, okay, maybe then you can short, but I'm just not really seeing anything for shorts right now. So as far as longs go, you can see we had this beautiful 4-hour downward trend line right there like that, and it ended up breaking it obviously with this huge move up. Gave us a little demand zone down at 1.08. So if we do pull back down to this 4-hour demand zone, that could be a good zone where we could look for potential long trade to continue to trade with that daily trend to the upside. If you don't want to have an entry and a stop below, that's fine. When price contacts it, if it does, you could just look for confirmation on a 15-minute or a 5-minute time frame. That would be completely appropriate. Let's say we don't retrace all the way back down here, because I mean, that's a big gap to fill, right? It's kind of, to just say price is going to pull back, it's, you know, definitely not guaranteed, especially after such a large move down. If the other thing we could do for longs If this supply zone is removed, and preferably the high as well, but it's not required, but as long as this supply is removed, let's say we get a nice basing here, nice push up where we break the supply, and we have a nice 4-hour demand zone there, then we could look for longs off of that, just like we were going to do down here. So we are basically either waiting for a pullback down to demand for longs to the 4-hour chart, or waiting for this scenario to play out where we remove the supply and we remove the high, and then we could look for longs. And good news for all the day traders out there as well, if we do end up breaking the high in the supply, then we will have a 4-hour and a 1-hour uptrend, and then at that point 15-minute and 5-minute time frame longs are going to be good as long as that momentum continues to go to the upside. So hopefully all of this makes sense. Remember guys, any questions about any of the analysis, do not hesitate to ask. I respond to every single comment. On to the forecast for gold. The last couple of weeks we were making all-time highs in gold, kind of failing to really push up there as we were just wicking above and dropping. But remember, there is weekly demand zone down below 22.24. We definitely could be pulling back down to there. I'm not seeing a lot of evidence to suggest that, but I'm just saying if we do pull back, big deal. We have a nice weekly demand zone down there. That'd be a beautiful buying opportunity. And I just wanted to remind you guys of this beautiful weekly trend to the upside. Gold's really going nowhere. I think we are just going to continue to go up. However, on the daily chart here, we actually did end up kind of falling over here and turning around when we broke this demand zone here. But this demand zone here that I drew a couple weeks ago also is holding, so we are pushing up off of that. Now we are actually reacting off of supply in this daily chart, which is pretty significant in my opinion. But as far, we're going to go to the lower time frames here in a second, but as far as the daily chart goes, if we do in fact remove this daily supply, any daily demand zone that's formed from that is going to be a good demand zone to look for longs off of. Now, since the daily supply is in control, could we be looking for shorts? Yes, we definitely could. But remember, it is counter trend to the weekly and counter trend to the daily. So all counter trend trades are definitely going to be higher risk in my opinion. So as far as trading it goes now, we could pretty much just be on this 4-hour chart. If you look down here, we have a 4-hour demand zone down here at 23.89, and at 24.58 we have a 4-hour supply zone. Now this 4-hour supply is in theory a 4-hour confirmation trade as we push off of that overall daily supply. So it's not a bad zone. The only thing that, and I mean, I like the zone. It removed demand zone. It's a nice move down, tight basing. As far as the zone goes and as what this time frame looks like, it really looks great. The only thing we don't have going for this supply zone is the fact that it is counter trend. So if you want to trade short off that daily supply, maybe you think we're going to be pulling back down to that weekly demand zone I was pointing out earlier. That's fine if you have that idea, but what you could be doing is be trading this 4-hour supply zone, maybe on a day trading time frame, but what I will recommend is to look for confirmation on a lower time frame at least, and I would maybe risk a little bit less. Let's say you typically risk 1 to 2% on every trade. Since this is counter trend, I would maybe risk 0.5% or 0.75%, 0.25%, or maybe if you always risk 2%, risk 1%, right? Definitely I would risk less based on the fact that this is a counter trend setup. Now, like I said, I would prefer to look for confirmation on a day trading time frame, a 15-minute or a 5-minute time frame. And if you want my confirmation zones on those day trading time frames, we will talk about those in the daily market breakdown videos that I release throughout the week in the Diamond membership. So if you want access to that, links are in the description down below. We actually caught a beautiful confirmation trade down here, over a 5-to-1 trade confirmed from a couple weeks ago. So links are in the description down below. We have video lessons, private Discord groups, Sunday Zoom sessions where we talk strategy, and like I said, the daily forecast where we catch all of those trades. So we're happy to see all serious traders join the team. We also have lifetime access available. So confirmation trade there would be fine. If you want to trade with the weekly trend, remember last week we had this beautiful 4-hour downtrend. It was removed by this rally-based rally demand zone at 23.89. So this would be our long trade down here in the 4-hour chart. It's not amazing, but it is a good zone that removed not only a downward trend line, but pretty much this supply zone as well. It was technically this one, but this one was also kind of the origin of the move. So this would be our pullback entry long. And look, you could be playing both. If you have the idea of, hey, maybe price is going to pull up to the supply, then react down to demand, and then I'll get in long there. Yeah, you could be shorting here and getting in long there. That's fine. I personally prefer to only play one side typically, and I definitely prefer to trade with the trend. So this would be our 4-hour demand zone to trade with the trend. This would be our 4-hour supply zone to trade counter trend. Whatever you decide to do, I think both are fine, but remember, it's always higher odds and more profit to be made when trading with the trend. On to the forecast for the USD JPY, and really quick, if you are enjoying this video so far, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. All ad revenue is donated to my local hospice. We actually made a donation last week. Thanks to everyone here who continues to like the video and share the video and watch the video. So much appreciated, guys. Let's continue with those likes, get more ad revenue generated for donations. Now, onto the USD JPY here. We had a weekly trend. We technically, in theory, still have a weekly trend because we haven't really closed below it yet. And if you just look, it's a beautiful weekly trend. Picture perfect in my opinion. But I mean, look at what we've seen here. Just a massive move down the end. We have, demand zones absolutely being blasted through. So is this the start of a change of trend? I personally am kind of leaning towards yes. I personally think that is what we are seeing. Now, as far as the daily chart goes, obviously the change of trend is more evident here. There is some demand zones we are going to have to get through, but honestly, I'm not putting a lot of weight on them. I think we'll have no problem going through them. You might have a zone here. That'll be throughout the week. We will see, but so far there is a supply zone at 152.83 on the daily chart. If we do pull back up to that daily supply, it could be a good area for a potential swing trade to the downside if you're bearish the dollar. So definitely have this base drop daily supply at 152.83 on your charts for potential swing trades. It could even be an area where you turn a day trade into a swing trade with like 25% of your position or something if we do get a setup to the downside. Now, good news as well. We do have a beautiful 4-hour and a 1-hour downtrend. So which means day trading short on day trading time frames, which is a 15-minute or a 5-minute time frame, is definitely going to be good in my opinion. Now there is a little base drop 1-hour supply zone up at 148.62. If we do pull back up to that supply, it could be an area where we look for shorts on the 1-hour chart. Now if we get a kind of a bigger pullback, if you look here, we have a 4-hour supply zone above at 152.50. So again, if we do see a little bit of strength in the dollar, which I said is possible at the beginning of the video, that could be a good area to get a potential short as well. If the base drop at 152.37 to see a move to the downside. So it's really shorts, and that 4-hour supply is so close to that daily supply as well. They're all kind of lining up. So there's really not much else to say. It's shorts all the way. We definitely have a lot of pressure to the downside. I think that this is potentially a change of trend, and I'm looking forward to potentially getting some trades here. So whether you're day trading short or swing trading short, it's short all the way. I'm seeing no evidence to suggest we should be getting long at this time. Maybe next week there'll be a potential long trade, but in the meantime, guys, it's shorts all the way. Pullbacks to supply definitely should be used for shorting in my opinion. All right, on to the forecast for the GBP USD. We recently kind of pierced below the daily trend of the upside, pierced below this daily kind of buying area. If you look, I don't have it as a real zone. I just had it kind of as a temporary zone. Looks like we're blasting through it. It seems like the institutions, the large players, wanted to kind of stop out the trend line traders. That's what it looks like to me. Although it's definitely possible we do pull back down to this daily zone at 1.259 where we can get a good little swing trade. But until then, look, it's longs all the way. I'm not loving this on the daily chart, but it is what it is, and we pretty much have to go with it. So it's really longs all the way. I'm just not seeing anything just yet. We do have a lot of downward pressure. To the downside, we have supply zones being created. We have demand zones being broken. We do have a supply zone at 1.28. If you are bearish, that would be really the only area I would look for shorts. I'm not bearish, so I'm not going to be looking for shorts there, but that is really the only area I'd be looking for shorts at. And if you're bullish, like me, we have a couple options here. I didn't really realize this, but this actually is a downward trend. It's a really weird downward trend line, but it is a downward trend line, which is broken by this demand zone down here. So we don't really have a downtrend anymore on the 1-hour chart. The overall trend is down on the 1-hour chart, but not really. We've definitely just changed momentum here. So a couple options for shorts. That would be our only area for shorts. For longs, we could either wait for a pullback down to this demand at 1.275. It's a good little rally-based rally, beautiful move away. Really doesn't get better than that as far as a move away. It broke a trend line, so that would be our pullback entry to the long side. If we don't get a pullback entry, if we remove this supply, If we remove that supply there, any 1 hour demand zone there, boom, we can get a potential long trade off of that on the pound. And that's really it. I don't really see any day trading long setups at this point. If we get a very clear peaks and valleys form with a trend line, okay, at that point we could add day trading longs to our trading plan on the pound here. But in the meantime, we really just, it's all going to revolve around the 1 hour supply and the 1 hour demand. And I think longs are definitely going to be favored due to the weekly trend and the daily trend, right? We just got to be a little bit patient, wait for a pullback to that 1 hour demand zone, or wait till we remove the 1 hour supply above. On to the USD CAD. We are into a daily supply zone, but look at the supply. It's from back here. It's tested once, twice. And for that third test, to me, it's looking like it's going to break. It's weird. The dollar is looking bearish. This is looking pretty bullish. So in theory, we could be looking for longs. I'm not going to have too much to say about the USD CAD here. As far as zones go, look on the 4 hour chart here and the 1 hour chart. I'm not really seeing any zones that are fresh or looking good. So all I'm going to say here is I'd be monitoring this 4 hour time frame. And why would I be doing that? Well, because we have a pretty nice 4 hour trend to the upside right now. This was too much momentum for me to be looking for longs there. But now that we've kind of got a nice retracement, pulled back up, got a nice little valley in the peak, it's looking pretty good, and I don't mind looking for longs as long as this trend line is holding. I think looking for longs is going to be fine. So on a 15-minute or a 5-minute time frame, as long as this trend line's holding, I think longs are going to be fine. But as soon as this trend line gets removed like that, at that point I would be holding off on longs, and then if there's a supply zone there, then we could actually look for shorts. So if we do get this move here, then we could look for shorts. But in the meantime, we have trend lines being respected. It's really longs all the way on the day trading timeframes. We have to also monitor the DXY as well to see what takes place. But I cannot deny this 4 hour trend. It's looking really good, and I think that the longs in the day trading timeframes are going to be good. On to the forecast for the Aussie US dollar. You guys know a couple weeks ago we pointed out this daily demand zone right there, and look at this, nothing but red on the Aussie. But I was pointing out, hey, there's a even better daily demand zone down here, and that I pointed out back in May that removed a trend line. It's a beautiful drop-based rally demand zone, and we are currently kind of reacting off of it. Not the reaction I wanted to see, but I still think it's possible we do retrace from demand back up to supply at 0.666. So good little daily demand zone here. I think looking for longs is going to be fine, and I actually really like what I'm seeing as far as on the 1 hour chart goes. I'm not loving it, but here's why I like it. Because remember, when a daily demand zone is in control, we want to see a 1 hour confirmation. That's what we really need for an entry. So as we push into the zone, we kind of got a confirmation here, not the best, but now we have a pretty nice 1 hour supply zone at 0.654. Not only is it a supply zone, that's a nice move away, broke a demand zone, so it's valid. We also had a reaction off of it to the downside. And what does that mean? It means that it is proven 1 hour supply, meaning there is supply there because we've reacted off of it. So if we do push up now, like this, we break this proven 1 hour supply, any 1 hour demand zone there, that would be our confirmation long entry. And this is pretty much our confirmation entry model in a nutshell as we come off of that overall daily demand zone from down below. The fact that it's a proven supply zone is fantastic. Now, do we have to wait for a pullback long? No, you could trade a breakout out of this. The issue is your risk reward becomes smaller, so it's not that great. But really, it's a very clear opportunity for confirmation if we can remove that 1 hour supply. And not only that, if we remove the supply zone there, that would give us an H1 uptrend, which is fantastic as well, because then we could add 5-minute and 1-minute time frame day trades to our trading plan as well on the Aussie. So really, if we can break above this, it's all signs are pointing to the upside. And what I really like about this setup here, it's not with the trend on the daily chart, which isn't great, but it is a good daily zone, and we have a very clear price target for supply up there. So I think it's a very clear profit target to the upside where you could say, hey, I want to hold 50%, 25% of the position all the way up to that 1 hour supply. So there's tons of profit margin here. I just think we need to be a little bit more patient and wait for confirmation to the upside by removing that supply. And look, it could save you. If you get in long now, okay, you're anticipating the break. That's fine. You could do that. It's a little bit risky though, because look, the supply could hold in the 1 hour chart. We could continue to break down. My analysis was wrong. The dollar is going to get stronger. I'm not seeing that taking place right now. That's why we need to be a little bit more patient and wait for that 1 hour confirmation as we push off of that daily demand zone on the Aussie US dollar. On to the USD CHF, the Swiss franc. The big question the last couple months really is this weekly zone going to hold? It kind of held for a bit, but ultimately we ended up breaking down and breaking this weekly demand zone. So honestly, all signs are pointing to the downside. Will we hesitate to break this low here? I think so, but honestly, I'm expecting price to continue to fall. Not only did we break the weekly demand zone, we have a beautiful daily downward trend at this point. It is kind of getting away from us here, but I am noticing this daily zone down here, and it's a good little daily zone, right? It did break a trend line. I like the zone. What I don't like about it is the fact that we couldn't get the pullback right away. Now we're getting the pullback, and just because it's a daily zone doesn't mean it's going to hold, right? It's a zone from a long time ago. Things were different than from back here, so things are different now. We already pushed over 50% of the way in. I think we will hesitate to break through the zone. I think we could react off of it, kind of fill in a little bit of this gap and then drop. I'm just putting up this daily zone because I think, hey, maybe we will react off of it to the upside a little bit. But ultimately, guys, I am definitely bearish on the USD Swiss here. I don't really think getting in long is a good idea. The only time, going to the 4-hour chart, the only time I'd really ever even consider getting in long is if we can remove this 4-hour downward trend. And, you know, I'm just not seeing any evidence of that at all. So as far as trading the USD Swiss goes, you can see here, beautiful 4-hour downward trend. Supply zones are being created. Demand zones are breaking. So if we do pull back up to that supply at 0.87, I think it's a beautiful drop-based drop to potentially get a short trade off of. And at any point, as long as this trend line, the downward trend line is being respected, 15-minute and 5-minute time frame shorts are going to be fine, guys, on the day trading time frames. And again, as always, guys, you can look for confirmation on a day trading time frame inside of the supply. You don't always have to just take an entry with a stop and a take profit. You can, you know, maximize your risk reward, confirm your entry on a lower time frame. That's fine as well. But I think it's a beautiful drop-based drop. Zone that we could definitely look for shorts at. And look, I mean, look at the higher time frames. We don't have a weekly trend, but the fact that the weekly demand zone was removed, the fact that we have a daily trend, the fact that we have a 4-hour and a 1-hour downtrend, look, it's shorts all the way, pretty much on any time frame that you are trading. All right, last but not least, on to crude oil. Now, I'm a little bit frustrated on this chart, I'm not gonna lie. And why I'm frustrated is because we had two beautiful daily zones that pretty much acted as if they were not there, and it's a bummer, but that's, you know, there's no perfect strategy, right? We are back into this daily zone from back here, and it was already, if you guys remember, we caught a beautiful trade from that zone from a while ago, so not all of them work, right? We were back into the daily zone at 74.04. Do I think we're gonna I mean, it's possible. It's a good zone. The issue is it's tested once before, so I don't really like trading at tested areas. But, you know, I'm bullish oil, and I guess I really don't know why. It's more economical things, I guess. I just think oil is going up, but I don't know. It's tricky, and I don't really see a lot of long setups right now. And I think the reason those daily zones failed is because there wasn't really any higher time frame analysis to go with it. It's not like we had a weekly trend, and it's not like we were pulling back into a weekly zone like we did down here. So there wasn't really anything here to go off of. I think maybe that's why those daily zones have failed. But honestly, you could, if we start to look, we could basically all be basing it off this 4-hour downward trend line here. If this 4-hour downward trend line is holding, you could look for shorts on day trading time frames. I think that's completely fine. If we push up, we break the downward trend line, leaving us with a good quality 4-hour zone, okay, then we could look for longs. And let's say we continue to push up, break supply, we could continue to look for longs and trade this trend. But right now, we have a downtrend, so we have to be going with that downtrend, in my opinion. So shorts on day trading time frames, as long as this downward trend line is being respected, is completely fine. If you want to get a little bit more aggressive, we do have a 1-hour supply at 76.45. We definitely could see a move off of that supply zone. It's a little hidden drop-based drop, but it is a good zone. If we do retrace to the upside, that's where I think we will hesitate to break through. So good little supply zone there. And if we actually break that supply zone, that's fine. We actually have one a little bit above. Let me just readjust it a little bit for you guys. So good little supply zone above. We can actually see a move off of that as well at 78.96. And then, like I said, if we blast through these zones, okay, then we could switch to potential longs. But in the meantime, guys, we cannot deny this downtrend. So it's really shorts all the way. And like I said, 1 hour supply zone there is good. And pretty much if you're waiting for longs, we need to see a shift of momentum, which would be the break of this 4 hour downtrend. But in the meantime, guys, I think looking for shorts is going to be the only answer here on crude oil. And if you guys want to watch the full length forecast with all the other markets, make sure to subscribe to the channel membership to get access.